Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we have an interview that I'm so excited for. Usually we interview developers, community managers, but occasionally we step outside our comfort zone, so to say. And today we have one that, this guy is awesome, so I'm hyped to have him on. Today we're joined with Henry Stockdale. He's the review editor for UploadVR. In my opinion, the leading VR media publication.
Dude, it's like literally the best source for your VR news.
Them and Road to VR are the OGs, but myself, nothing against Road to VR. I love them too, but I'm a little biased towards Upload. I like the format, the layout, and, Henry's really blowing up there over at Upload. But before we get carried away, Henry, as always, do you mind to introduce yourself a little bit more for the listeners? Tell them who you are and what you do over at UploadVR.
Of course. And first of all, thank you for the kind words, both of you. So as you heard, I'm Henry Stockdale. I'm the reviews editor over at UploadVR. So what that involves is as well as doing things like general news stories, features, interviews and such, I also handle assigning our reviews, which is either handled by me or a freelancer that we will assign to cover that game for us.
Nice. And, VR journalism and gaming journalism as a whole has a very important role in the industry, in my opinion, especially in VR where there's not a whole bunch of... It
always has, dude, because that's where you get excited about something coming, or, those news sources are typically the first to
Since I was a little kid, getting the Game Informer magazines from GameStop, I always loved gaming journalism. It was like the go-to way for me to find out what's coming up next. So you guys all have a very important role in the industry. But it's my understanding, doing some journalism for VR, that's not your first time in journalism. So do you want to take us through, your start of your career, how you got started in gaming journalism?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually began back in 2010. I was 17 years old and was briefly a staff member for Nintendo Life. So I was covering all the Wii and DS games coming out back then. But as a 17-year-old, I didn't really know how to process feedback as such. That didn't last terribly long. But then I took a break for a bit, went to university, did some insurance work, came back 5 years ago, and just gradually built myself up from there. So I was doing work for a PC site. At one point, I was a news editor for an esports website, and just gradually building up my portfolio, getting published at places like Eurogamer, IGN, Tech Radar. Managed to get some VR coverage in from time to time, and even Upload let me freelance for them for a bit. And then it just sort of went from there, really. I ended up at Upload in December 22.
Wow. And, that hiatus to college, was that for journalism as well, or was that something completely unrelated?
Unrelated. I did computing for 4 years.
So you're completely self-taught, just freelance, built from the ground up into the industry?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I didn't have any sort of formal training. I'd sort of learned as I went along.
Wow.
So it almost sounds like earlier when you were doing it, but like you said, you couldn't process.
17,
Yeah. But it sounds like the talent existed. You just needed the maturity to catch up to the talent to be able to do it. That's pretty cool.
So this is something that you've always known that you wanted to get into the gaming journalism side of things? I mean, it sounds like it's starting at 17.
Yeah. So I honestly, I just did it because I enjoyed it back then. But then after several years working, like car insurance and private health insurance claims, I was just like, I don't want to do this all my life. So I gradually went back to it. I was like, what's the one thing I ever enjoyed doing? And it was this.
Well, I'm glad we've gotten you into the VR niche selfishly, for, the media side of things. But how did you discover VR?
So back in 2014, during those uni days, a friend of mine was doing a game development project. He asked me to come in for an hour, try out, I want to say it was a Rift DK2, I think was available at that time. I can't remember exactly which one, but Yeah, so I tried that. That was cool. He put me on the roller coaster, which terrible idea for a first time experience, especially when he started swiveling my chair around. But yeah, I always sort of kept it in mind. So when PlayStation VR 1 came out, a friend of mine bought that, dipped in then. That was cool, but I couldn't afford it until several years later. Got myself a Rift S when I could. It's just gone from there, really.
That's awesome.
Everybody's story with VR is the same, though. It's like, how'd you get into VR? It's like, I tried this headset once, and then that was it. That's all it took. It's like, so you've always been a gamer your whole life?
I would say so, yeah. Yeah, so that's ever since getting an N64 as a kid.
You got to have a huge passion for the industry to be pumping out the amount of articles and such that you are each week.
Oh, it's no joke, dude.
So at this point, are you doing, obviously you have the role at Upload, but are you still doing freelance stuff for, more traditional flat screen gaming?
Yes, I am. Not as much for obvious reasons. It's hard to juggle that alongside a full-time job, but I still do the odd pieces, mainly for Eurogamer, IGN, and sometimes Play Magazine as well.
So you're pretty much exclusively playing VR these days just due to work, or do you still squeeze in quite a bit of flat screen as well?
It's about 50-50, to be honest. So yeah, obviously, you spend a lot of time doing the VR reviews. Like I'm currently writing up a review for Sushi Ben. Does that just come out on PSVR 2? But like last couple of months, I've been playing things like the new Final Fantasy, was 7 Rebirth, things like that.
And speaking of PlayStation VR 2, I don't know if there's been a more controversial headset the past couple of years of, the people that have it. Some people love it, but, there's been the unfortunate side of lack of library and, some buggy games and such. But for yourself as a PlayStation VR 2 user, we don't have them. What's your thoughts on the console as a whole?
I think the console as a whole is great. People will often say, like, there are no games, and that simply isn't true. People are wanting exclusives from it, and that's kind of like the critical point where it's lacking at the moment. So I think a lot of people have gone into it expecting Sony to be putting out the same output they did with PSVR 1, because we had games coming out a lot back then. But since with PSVR 2, we've not really seen that same support, and it's a little bit disappointing, especially with games like Astrobot not getting support. That was a blow.
We never got to
play it.
We never played Astrobot, but in the past 6 months, ever since Max Mustard, was in development, I've heard Astrobot come up maybe once every couple weeks. And yeah, the news of that, the sequel to it not being in VR, definitely hit the community hard.
I just can't figure out. I don't know what to pin it on. I mean, I've complained it was marketed from the get-go tough. Then there's the financial side. I tried to, so I just can't figure it out, but it doesn't.
Well, it's weird too, because this is just me personally. I don't think that exclusives, I'm not married to them. It's funny when something does come out exclusive, people complain because they're like, oh, I can't play it on this console or this one.
But then always been that way.
But then when there's not exclusive, people are like, the developer or the company's not supporting it. I don't think exclusives are the make it or break it personally. I think it's the best if it's available on all different platforms.
I completely agree. I think in this case, it's more when people say exclusives, they want the first party stuff from Sony. And yes, we are seeing them making more pushes into PC gaming, but we've yet to see them adapt a VR title as such.
The PC VR support for PlayStation VR has to be my biggest surprise of 2024 so far. I was not expecting them to do that at all.
No, me neither. It was a really pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I think that's going to be huge for, justifying getting the platform itself. It's like, well, geez, you know what? If I can get all these different PC VR games too, and there's,
Well, my question is always, how do you get the person who doesn't own a PS5 to want to be enticed enough to spend? At that point, that's a bundle of money. And that's always been like what kicks in my head. It's like, that's not the easiest sell to go, you're going to need to buy 2 things.
It sounds like they're, from what I understand, based off of some news that came out last week, it sounds like they're going to do it with an adapter.
Yes, that's right. I think something came up in South Korea. I can't remember what it was exactly, but yeah, it was a PC adapter, so you just plug it in there.
I wonder. I hope that
so you won't need the PS5.
I hope.
No.
That would be a ridiculous chain to go from headset to, console to computer
just
from there.
making sure that like you could get away with
because
just buying the headset and the adapter.
Now you can sell to a market that, like you said, doesn't own the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I hope
that to me is an easier sell for the headset than having to buy the
real holy grail, and it goes against the exclusive things. Again, I hope we do see some PSVR 2 titles come to, PC VR as well. Selfishly, for myself, being Gran Turismo, I know that's the same for you as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's like the number one PlayStation VR title we've stared at.
If I were to try any PlayStation game, it would be Gran Turismo.
Ever since I was a little kid, Gran Turismo has been your number one racing game.
I used to call out of work sometimes because me and my buddy would play. It was terrible. We're going way back. This game's been around forever. But yeah, there were a couple of them where we're like, we just got it. It was like, no, we're not going to work today. Flat out.
Absolutely. So just to kind of jump ship with questions a little bit, this is something that I think anybody in content creation or, media runs into, that you have your favorite games, but you don't always get to play them as much as you want to because, there's other things to review and, new games coming in. But what have been some of your favorite releases of, this past year so far?
Dungeons of Eternity. That is easily my favorite multiplayer game to come out from the last year. I wish I had more time for that game. It's so good.
Yeah, I think we went back into it for the first time after a couple months, a couple weeks ago, and yeah, it's only gotten better too.
No, we actually found our first dungeon that we haven't been able to beat. It's one of the largest I've ever seen, and it is. And we played on the most difficult level
because they added a new hardest difficulty, which is effed up.
Yeah, but we've done I think 4 runs in it, and we've never finished it.
Yeah,
it's crazy hard. So we need another.
Yeah. That Dungeons of Eternity is I think
a great game.
I think in like 3-4 years, people are still going to be talking about it. It actually won our game of the year at the end of last year, and
they have a good roadmap for it, so it's far from done.
Yeah, we've seen that with the updates, and so what console do you play on mostly for headset right now?
At the moment, Quest 3, but I really go all over the place. Most of if I got a review code coming through, often I'll ask for a PSVR 2 copy, but then, I still play plenty of PC VR stuff as well, so I'm not really tied down to one place as such. I think it's good to keep an open mind on these things.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm glad we've recently expanded a bit into some PC VR as well, too.
Oh, PC VR is great.
And hey, maybe with the Sony adapter, maybe you can justify actually expanding to try out the PSVR as well too. So let's see. I don't know. I'm one of those people. I'm more optimistic about the VR industry in general. I'm just an optimistic person. I think things are trending up. We've had great games come out this past year, like Underdogs, Contractor Showdown, Ghost of Tabor launching on the official Quest store. So me personally, I tend to be pretty optimistic. What's your opinion on the current state of the VR industry right now?
I think VR is looking strong. We're midway. I say not midway. Like we've kicked off a new generation within the last year. Obviously PSVR 2, Quest 3, Apple Vision Pro. I don't think the last one is going to take off as much, at least initially. But when you're seeing big franchises like Alien, Batman, Assassin's Creed, all coming to VR. Like think back to like 2016 when developers were making these experiences, but they were just like 5 or 10 minute tech demos, like Call of Duty and stuff like that. It's come such a long way, and I think it's only going to keep building.
We're also seeing these AAA games like Assassin's Creed be done very well, so I'm hyped for Batman VR because same developers as Iron Man VR.
Yeah, and Iron Man was decent.
Yeah, it was done very well.
Yep.
Yeah.
Remember flying around in the air, the locomotion?
I got so many questions about how Batman's going to play, what you're going to be able to do and not do. And I always wanted a Spider-Man, though. Spider-Man to me seems like a no-brainer. And I think they have it for flat screen, but I don't know if they have it for
PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
But, they said that they're going to tease some more info for Batman VR at the Summer Games Fest. I wonder if we're going to get more VR news in general at the Summer Game Fest, or if that's pretty much it.
I mean, I'm hoping for at least a look at gameplay with Batman, but Summer Games Fest, I don't know if we'll see too much.
Yeah.
We don't usually.
No, but it's weird that they're not doing a MetaQuest gaming showcase. I'm wondering if they're going to load up the Summer Game Fest with some of the stuff that they would normally show at their gaming showcase.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're seeing... Sorry,
I was going to say, I think you're right. Like Batman, if they were doing their own showcase, surely that would be the headline for them.
And we started to see the Quest Lite, or the Quest 3S, I should say. We started to see that pop up on store listings. What's your thoughts on that whole naming system?
It's very Xbox early 2010s iPhone coded. I'll say that. I think it's good to have. I don't think it's a bad name. I think if you call it a Lite, people might think it's like a smaller sort of headset when it's going to be using the Fresnel lenses. And those are a bit heftier. So I think it's a good idea.
Is that why you think that they went away from the Lite name, because of the actual weight of it is going to be heavier?
I think so. Yeah, or at least like it's going to look bulkier. At least
I can understand that. I'm of the mindset. I think the S naming scheme is going to be confusing, but let's see. So I've often been wrong before. I know you're pretty comfortable with the Microsoft naming schemes, but they confuse the hell out of me.
Bought every console they've ever made. So.
Next, we're gonna have an XS, and that's just gonna go and go and go.
There's no XS. There's either S or X, but I have the X. So I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah,
I've got the Series X as well, but it's. Yeah, I can see where for some that would be a little bit confusing, but you get used to it.
Yeah. I mean, I Googled, and I'm like, what's better, S or X?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Like, X. I'm like, all right, that's what I want. It's simple enough.
I will say, I do think Meta missed a trick by not releasing both of them at the same time.
That's a good point. But, it's interesting, too, because they're really milking those Quest 2 sales right now.
Oh, yeah. It's a clearance sale.
Yep. Dude, $199 is beyond a steal. But you got to think that they're going to kill support of the Quest 2 pretty shortly after launching the Quest 3S. You would think, right?
I would think another year.
I would say at least a couple of years, given just how big that base is. It's not like Quest 1, where I think realistically, I want to say it was like 5% of the Quest user base before Quest 3 launched, and even that. Yeah.
I remember we interviewed Chris Pruitt at this point like a year and a half ago, and he had talked about like when a new console comes out, and that on that day there's 0% of the user base has it because it just came out, and you still have 100% of your users on the previous gen console.
Yeah.
With the amount of Quest 2s selling right now, geez, I gotta assume the majority of the player base is going to be on a Quest 2.
Well, dude, they build them well, so they're lasting. It's not like, I mean, there's problems with all computer stuff every now and then,
look at our laptops.
Numbers. Yeah, exactly. But for the most part, it's a well-built headset. So, I mean, I'm 2 years would seem pretty realistic, though, especially if they pump out some more stuff and are lowering prices on the 3.
I'm so curious about this headset, though. Like, what's it going to cost in comparison to a Quest 2? Really, how powerful is it going to be? I'm curious.
It'll be $10 cheaper than a Quest 2. That'll justify,
Yeah. Honestly, I think an announcement must be imminent. Like Quest 3, that was announced almost dead on a year ago. Like a year and a day. Yeah. So I reckon it's due.
I'm overly optimistic with this, but I think that they're going to say something at the Summer Games Fest about it, because we're seeing it pop up on store listings now. And it's not like when the Quest 3 started coming up on store listings. If I remember correctly, it said new Quest, like, a couple months before the Quest 3 came out or was announced. This is saying, Meta Quest 3S. It's like, it's got to be, like you said, imminent. It's got to be coming close.
Oh, yeah.
So Summer Games Fest is a time where there's a lot of non-VR, users on there as well. So if you can drop a launch price of like $350 or something like that, dude, that's going to attract a lot of people with a Batman trailer alongside of it. Man,
it does seem like they're liquidating all their
Quest 2 inventory.
Their Quest 2 inventory, and they're going to give you every reason in the world to, like, who knows? Maybe they'll have a trade-in.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said that's a great idea. Like, bring us your old one, save $50, and they know it's out of the market. It's
Fully
done.
agree. Yeah.
Obviously, Sorry, keep going.
Sorry, I was just going to say I am still just shocked that they're going for Quest 3 exclusives already. Yeah, like first party stuff like Batman. That's huge, and to not have that on Quest 2, where so many people are still at.
Well, what if it's also playable on the Quest 3S?
Almost certainly, yeah.
You know,
Sure.
Yeah, it would seem like it would have to.
You
be.
bundle it launch for $350, $4, something like that.
Wicked fat, decent price.
That's the only way. Because I agree, it's the majority of users are on the Quest 2, like that, without a doubt. And Batman's going to be huge unless they're trying to entice people to upgrade. Good.
And I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they got serious programs and people over there, so they're probably just looking at nothing but data and going, "Look, this is the percentage that do own it. How can we get them to get rid of that freaking headset and just liquidate the market with the Quest 2 and then offer a price that's a steal on a 3 that will run these exclusive games made for the 3? I mean, it's, who knows how long it would take to pull off, but
that would be the biggest sell for the Quest 3S if it could handle those exclusives.
If they could throw Grand Theft Auto in the mix as an exclusive, then it's a no-brainer. People be throwing their 2s away.
Do we think that's still coming?
No,
no.
I stopped drinking the Kool-Aid on that about, just under a year ago. I was like, you know what? I'm just not even feeling nothing anymore.
Where they shot themselves in the foot with that announcement, besides announcing it what seems like too early, is if you go back to the announcement. Of course, we can Ministry of Truth it, and maybe one day they'll scrub it. But the actual announcement on that day said Grand Theft Auto San Andreas will come to the Quest 2. That's where they effed up. If they had just said Grand Theft Auto San Andreas will come to the Quest, it's a little bit more ambiguous. You could say, look, now it's a Quest 3 exclusive. But the initial announcement was Quest 2. What do you think? Do you think it's canned?
I would like to see it arrive, but I'm not confident. I'm pretty sure it's been canned. And let's face it, they're in the middle of developing Grand Theft Auto 6. Their priorities have got to be elsewhere.
Yeah, and I know the rumor was like a third-party studio, Rockstar Studio, working on it versus like the main Rockstar Studio, but...
Well, and here's the problem. It's like, I mean, there's a direct source of all things VR media, right? And I don't see any media or being able to find any information on Grand Theft Auto, and that scares the hell out of me because it's like, wow, how can something be so tight-lipped that not one source can say like confidently it was killed, it wasn't killed? It's a weird dynamic.
It's not like we haven't asked either. Like, we have tried to figure out what's been going on, but yeah, it is such a tight-lipped project.
I think we even sent an email trying to get some sort of like anything, just not just something that, there's a computer on and someone's in front of it.
If you want to hear Meta say nothing, ask them about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. That'll be the easiest way to get a non-response.
Speaking of Grand Theft Auto, how excited are you for the next one?
I'm not a huge fan of the series myself, admittedly, but that game is going to be ridiculous.
It's just a huge series. I mean, you're talking to him over here. This is probably his favorite gaming series of all time.
That's why when it was coming to, that's why I drank the whole jug of Kool-Aid the minute they were like, it's coming to the Quest 2. I'm like, gulp, gulp.
Well, specifically for me, because of my age and when I grew up, San Andreas was my favorite of the series.
Dude, you and your sister had to teach me shit to find good weapons so I could be destructive and hack people up with the samurai sword in the mall.
That was in Vice City. I'm still surprised that they didn't try to port Vice City first, because that's a even older
Easier
game.
one,
There's no swimming, there's no stats. That was what made San Andreas so great. Your character could get fat,
just bums
put on
me out,
muscle, change his hair. Great time, great games. Yeah, San Andreas. If that ever does come out, it'll be huge. But I'm not holding my breath either.
I'm reaching a point where what relevancy is it going to have? It's just like it was mentioned, the 6 is coming. I think it's coming next year, right? In 26 or 25.
I think so. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, I think it's 25. It's coming.
And were you a Splinter Cell fan growing up?
No, unfortunately not. That one completely went past me. The
reason I ask is I remember Ubisoft, they canned Splinter Cell VR to continue the development of Assassin's Creed VR. At one point, they had both of them going.
Splinter Cell was great.
I still think that would be a great one to continue to port.
That is
over.
the one where you had the night vision glass.
Yep. You can already
the cool sound.
Picture the old cover art of it with the guy with the night vision goggles and
stealth.
I think that would work great in VR. So I hope Assassin's Creed did good enough that we see Ubisoft, make that full push with Splinter Cell. So a little off topic, but back to the Quest 3. Do you want to speculate a little bit on price? Obviously, there's nothing released, but do you think it's going to be close to the Quest 2? Do you think it's going to be closer to the Quest 3 cost?
I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle. That's such a difficult one to say because Meta, they have the money where they could, take out a loss or very thin margins. So I'd say 350 seems a comfortable bet, but they could easily blindside us all and go for 300.
300 or 350? That thing is selling like hotcakes.
I just think the $299.99.
Yeah,
and it's like, I think even Quest 3 users might grab one just to have a
lighter one, a second
3
headset.
travel headset.
Yeah.
Instead of like bringing your 2 to travel if you've got the 3 and the 2.
And what do you think of no pancake lenses? Do you think that's a big deal or do you think that's not going to be anything that typical user is going to notice?
I don't think most users will notice. Like obviously the hardcore, we all want the pancake, but for most people, I don't think it will matter too much.
And they said there's going to be color pass-through on it, right? Or not they, the rumors of the leaks, the specs.
I'd be surprised if there wasn't, considering they made such a big push on mixed reality. To go back to black and white, that wouldn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I think that was the initial rumors.
So my question is, because nobody knows yet exactly what they scaled back on to make
pure speculation.
So we can assume storage space, right? Right off the bat, because we know they give you a lot for the extra storage. The lenses. There'd be a way, if we re-listen to that Bradley episode we did where he was talking about how much things actually cost, you could actually probably gamble on what it really would. So there's got to be more they scaled back on.
Yeah, I'm very curious the marketing push they do with it. Are they going to bundle a game like they did with Asgard's Wrath 2? I think bundling Batman VR.
I think it's time. I think they need to rotate the bundle games just for relevancy. Not that it's not a great bundle, it is, but like you said, when Batman comes, that should be like included flat out with and anytime there's a great game coming out like that
from one of their in-house studios, for sure. So a little off topic, but what are your favorite game genres to play?
RPGs, easily my favorite one. Motor racing, any sort of games like that. Yeah, those are up there. Just a good action adventure. Those are, for me, give me any of that. I'm set.
Have you tried V-Rider yet?
I have. I tried it at GDC, and I really like it. It's hard, though.
Yeah, there's a learning curve big time with learning to ride a motorcycle in VR versus a car. Car racing, I love freaking car racing, but the motorcycle racing was a challenge.
You're a big Formula One fan as well, too, right?
Yes, I am. Yeah, and I've got my copy of F124. Haven't dived into it yet, but can't wait to try that on the new PC in VR.
I think a standalone Formula One game could be a big hit. Formula One is huge outside of the United States. That's one of those. It's like
there's
soccer.
There's popularity in the States. I mean, especially like when it comes to like, I think occasionally they'll bring it to the track in New Hampshire.
But internationally, though, it is freaking
it's
huge.
a different deal. Oh, yeah. They'll shut down whole freaking cities and go ripping through the. But whatever. I love racing, but open wheel racing is always my toughest racing game. Like a NASCAR game or like Need for Speed or any of that shit. Crush it. But something about the realism of those cars, man, it's like you better be good when you're going around them corners.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally different animals.
And so Formula One 2024 has VR support in it?
Yes, it does. I think they've done it for the last, including this, for the last 3 games. So,
have you tried it for the previous editions, or?
Yeah, I reviewed the previous ones with VR support. So
nice. How were they?
The first one had, at least for me, some performance issues. The second one was was a bit better, but now I've got the improved PC. I'm hoping it'll be a smoother ride on this one.
And are you playing these with a driving rig?
I've got a Thrustmaster steering wheel, so I don't have like the proper rig setup. But for me, that's good enough.
Nice. We've been seeing a bunch of rigs posted in
Discord?
the Ruff Talk VR Discord too.
Holy crap!
You can find Henry as one of the I guess highlight members there. You know, definitely a big part of the daily conversation. But there's been a lot of rigs posted recently, and I'm like, man, this is going to spread. This is going to get contagious. People are going to see these pictures, and next thing you know, we're going to see one more person with a rig.
Dude, I'd love a driving rig.
If I had the space.
Yep, that's the holy grail of driving games. Just like flight simulators. If you can have the cockpit and the chair, I mean, boom, you're in business. But the money you can spend on something, just to have like an entry level decent setup is going to cost hundreds.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with a steering wheel.
Honestly, I tried one of those rigs a couple of months ago. It was for Assetto Corsa, and oh man, I could have taken it home with me.
And in your situation, how often are you traveling for work?
On average, every couple of weeks at the moment. Usually to London, but I do get about some other places here and there.
Yeah, so if I was in that situation every couple of weeks, I was going somewhere, I would live in the smallest possible domain I could.
All right, yeah.
Yep.
You're not going to be there all the time.
Yeah.
I think Upload should send them to PAX East next year on a media assignment.
Send that to my boss. I would love to be there.
Oh, dude.
Well, hey, if UploadVR was going to be there, maybe we'd see a lot more VR developers partake.
Here's my theory. Exactly. Even if year one of Upload sending Mr. Stockdale there, it's, it doesn't change the VR scene, but it would draw attention to the fact that, hey, Upload sending representatives, there's an opportunity for us to get noticed a lot more than. So your boss 100% should. It makes total sense.
Hint, hint, nudge, nudge.
There's a hotel right next to the convention center. You can fly in, 10-minute shuttle. You're at the convention center with the airport or the hotel attached. You're boom, bang, boom, you're good.
And you get to talk to the lovely people of Massachusetts. We're known for our kindness, right?
1,000,000%.
our hospitality.
Friendliest state in the world.
I'm sold. I'm there.
So as someone who's covered, flat screen gaming and VR gaming, is there any difference in, I guess, the media side or the VR industry as a whole versus the flat screen industry?
It's a tough one to answer. What do you mean specifically on that? Sorry, just to
I would gather like the ability to get the information.
Yeah, the direct communication with developers. I guess the community receptiveness, the positivity of the players.
I will say with developers, people are a lot more open because it's so much harder to get coverage as a VR developer, especially with more traditional outlets. Like I have tried pitching before I joined Upload. I tried pitching numerous outlets on, hey, do you fancy this review for a VR game, this or that? And it's such a difficult thing to break through. So I find that they obviously want the coverage. We're happy to, give that to them. They're a lot more willing to discuss the specifics. They're a lot more happy to give us codes, usually multiple.
Yeah, I've always been surprised how receptive developers are to a simple email or a simple private message.
A lot more open than flat screen developers.
Yeah.
There's so many in the flat screen world, where the VR space is still a little kumbaya-ish. I see changes here and there, not necessarily for the better, just as the businesses grow and the industry grows, things will get less.
No, but the reality is that when we first started the podcast, we were able to message developers with no history of episodes and stuff.
You want to be on episode 4?
And they were saying yes. I feel like that's not something that we would see as much in the flat screen industry.
No, and
you would. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say you would a bit more on like the indie side because I think trying to get a name for yourself in VR is one thing. Like that sea of like flat screen developers, it's you could so easily get drowned. So on the indie side, at least, I think there's more similarities. But as soon as you start getting to like AAA, that's a whole other matter.
I might get people might not like this part, but that's kind of my fear with App Lab going away is that we're going to hit a much harder spot to get your game the attention it deserves. But on that, what's your thoughts on the whole dissolution of the App Lab system?
It's a double-edged sword because, there are some games which people, really good quality games that just weren't getting through from the Meta's curation system. And that was honestly such a shame because you just can't make much of an impact at that point if people can't find you about a URL or searching the exact name. But as we have seen already, I've already seen more than a fair share of Gorilla Tag clones, for one thing. So there are merits to both, but that's such a hard one to balance.
Yeah, I lean to
the button.
Having a button,
Just
having a searchable second
Nothing
store.
Else, a button.
Mm-hmm.
And then a little breakdown of categories, genre, something, and then stop. Because I know the struggle from talking to the developers firsthand. It's a hard marketing struggle.
Yeah.
At almost any level. And to start to get drowned out because anybody who's ever got anything is going to be able to just put it up there within reason. It's just going to make that struggle much more difficult.
Well, and
it's going to make our jobs a lot easier as well, though. But
there's system level issues that are a problem too. I don't know how it works for a developer being able to put tags for their game, but all I'll know is when I search certain games, there's some crazy
shows up. Yeah.
Some crazy results come up as well. So it's not like it's the greatest, most accurate search feature. You referenced Gorilla Tag clones. Unfortunately, those have been coming up even when I'm typing in, I could type in Vader Immortal and I'm going to get, Shark Hands, whatever game. So
yeah,
I'm skeptical. I was pretty sold on the system of App Lab. You could still stick out quite a bit. Obviously they're the extreme outlier, but you see examples like Ghost of Tabor or even Gorilla Tag that burst through on App Lab.
Yeah.
Without all the other games that get on the official store being buried. So, but then you look at games like Atlas Mystery that never got the attention it deserves, and now it might get us some spotlight on the main pages. So, like you said, double-edged sword, but I'm incredibly skeptical.
What I'm going to want to know is for every good game, how many jank ones are going to be surrounding it of similar genre or so it's going to be weird.
And a new user, are they going to be able to pick out what's
just being stubborn?
Yeah.
I really thought App Lab was a good thing. Is they had it with it's adding the button to me was like, that's it. There's nothing more needed.
Chris Pruitt sold me on it in our interview with him on the importance of curation and the benefits of a secondary store that's not, completely affiliated apps. I don't know. I'm sad to see the system go because I think that it
is a sad time.
Yeah, I think it was part of the reason why the Quest store was one of the stores that maybe even the only VR store that's profitable for developers. But I could be completely wrong. Maybe in a year, everybody's profits are doubled. It's a better playing field for everyone. Let's see. Time will tell, but I'm skeptical. I'm curious what made them make that switch to an open store as well. If it was like developer pressure or internal data. I don't know. Let's see. But you mentioned the Apple Vision Pro earlier. Have you gotten to try it?
Yes, I have. I got to try it a couple of months ago. David Heaney has one, so I just picked it up from him, borrowed it for a week, and then gave it back. And it's a very interesting device, I'll say that. It's not one I would buy myself, at least not yet. I really struggled with some of the hand tracking on it, which was quite surprising, yeah.
And how about with glasses? Did you have to take off your glasses to use it?
Yeah, it did not fit comfortably with my glasses, but I do also wear contact lenses sometimes, so it's not the end of the world.
Okay. Yeah, I'm skeptical of the Apple device as well, too, in its current iteration. But like you said, maybe not in this current version, but Apple continues to innovate. Let's see when it gets cheaper and cheaper. I'm just not a huge fan of the premium pricing model as a whole. But you mentioned David Heaney, man, he's been crushing it with, I guess, technical breakdowns. And I see him put people in their place quite a bit on Twitter when they're making factual errors. So he's turned into quite the technical wizard this last couple of years, too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. His knowledge is it's incredible what that man knows. Honestly,
Yeah.
there's no thing. He even surprises me sometimes, like with information about the headsets.
Totally.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, with Apple Vision Pro, it's when we do get to a cheaper model, I think we will start seeing that more mainstream adoption. But I'm very much of the belief that you don't bet against Apple.
Yeah.
For the long-term investment, yeah.
I never would have
right.
thought that I would see, my girlfriend's friends, casual tech users buying Apple Watches, walking around with a smartwatch, but they've done it. They've convinced the public to buy smartwatches. So
Sure.
If they could do that, I don't see why a headset is out of the realm of possibility.
They need games.
Yeah.
They need lots of games.
Mhm.
Drop
Yeah.
the business ass. We know it's BS. It's like, come on.
When you tried it for the week, did you get to try Resolution Games Game Room?
I was curious
app?
about that.
Yes, I did. Yeah, that was really fun.
I've been that's the number one app on that store that
For
I'm
a
like,
reason.
that should be on the Meta Quest 3. Was there anything on it that felt like it couldn't work on the Quest 3, or did it seem achievable?
It seemed achievable. I would be very surprised if they couldn't run it on Quest.
I feel like an app like that should even be natively built in, because you think of like, at least
Solitaire and
Yeah,
the
playing-
old school Windows games.
Yes, as a kid, I didn't have a bunch of money to buy every single new game. So, or maybe I was at school or something. You better believe I played Minesweeper, I played Solitaire, I played all the pre-installed free Windows
I play
games.
Solitaire in VR.
So
I have no problem with it.
If coming with your Quest 3, you could hop into a social room with your friends with the meta avatars and play checkers, chess, Battleship. Dude,
Yeah.
that's great
So
for
much
retention. For day one retention.
It makes me wonder if they've got an exclusivity deal on it, even if it's only a short one.
I'm very confident of it. If it feels like it could run on the Quest 3, it's got to be that.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you want the profit from the people using the percentage? It's like it's there. Just put it on the headset. So there has to be an exclusivity to it. Which just hopes it ends soon.
Yeah,
because I want to try it. It looks fun as hell.
I can't imagine there's a bunch of Apple users, and even if you sold it for $499, $999, I mean, Resolution would crush it in sales on the Quest 3 or the Quest. I don't know how it would work because it was all pass-through environments, right?
No, you could have fully immersive too.
Okay, so maybe they could do it for past gen with black and white pass-through. Just take away the mixed reality option and only have the virtual environment. Yeah, that app just sounds so good for MR. Are you a big MR fan?
It's growing on me. There have been a few games where I'm like, does this really need it? And I think part of that might be, if I remember hearing correctly, a lot of developers weren't getting access to Quest 3s unless they had MR support before it launched. But I've been playing a lot of things, which it's slowly changing my mind.
Yeah, I've become a believer of mixed reality. Just like you, I was skeptical at first, but Quest 3 color pass through.
Yeah, dude. Black and white pass through and mixed reality just doesn't.
The first time you do it, experience in color pass through, it's pretty easy to get convinced. And you see great apps like Aspire 2's mixed reality mode or Drop Dead the Cabin. That's another that does it great.
Have you tried Astra?
No, not yet. And I've heard it's so good. I love the studio behind it. They make it was Astria, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Formerly known as Atlas 5. They did Madrid Noir.
Yep.
They did Wallace and Gromit. They've done so many good games. So no, I haven't tried Astro yet. It's good?
It's good. It's worth it. It feels like a bit Star Trek in some ways. Like when you're being teleported onto the planets.
I need to try it.
Yeah.
They're such a good studio. Have you checked out some of their other work as well?
Yeah, I have. I tried when I was in Venice last year. I tried Emperor. That was really good. I tried Missing 10 Hours. That was haunting, but a very powerful experience. What was it? Madrid Noir.
That one made us tear up a little.
Yeah,
I hate to
got
admit it.
I got the feels at
that was a good one.
The end of that one.
Yeah.
That was the first one that sold me on the potential of VR animation. I was like, wow, yeah, Astria. So what's the concept of Astro?
So it starts off in like you're picking up you're going through your mother's stuff. It's like belongings left behind, and then you find all these different tapes of her scientific expeditions, and it sort of puts you in the mother's shoes, going across all these different planets, scanning for different elements in the atmosphere. But it basically puts a starship in your living room.
Cool stuff. It's a shorter experience, right?
Yeah, it took me about 45 minutes, so not long at all, but yeah.
Totally
Definitely
doable in a
worth
day. I got to check it out.
It's that good.
Yeah, great developers. So yeah, mixed reality, I'm pretty sold on it at this point.
It has its place.
I agree with you that some games it feels forced. I loved Ultimate Swing Golf, but to me that was an example of a mixed reality mode that I'm like,
well, just put a golf simulator more or less in your room.
Like one of those driving simulators, pretty much.
But even something like Demeo, where it's just subtle, couple of decorations and a couple of posters.
I love that.
I appreciate the hell out of that.
I don't think I played Demeo in VR
since.
No,
no, dude. Why would you?
It's so much better in MR to me.
Have you tried Arcade Paradise in mixed reality?
No, not yet. It's good.
Yeah, being able to put an arcade around your living room just like that, so good.
It's weird how some apps.
That's when you realize how much space you don't have in your house.
Oh yeah.
Like, damn, I would not want these arcade machines in real life. Unfortunately,
dude, you'd cook from all the heat. Get the hell out, man.
Yeah, it's interesting the mixed reality concepts that in actually playing them, that it's like, wow, this works so good. Like Thrill the Fight, I love boxing in my living room.
I mean, it's a ceiling fan saver and a TV saver.
Racket Club, I love Racket Club. I don't like to play it VR because I get too into it and I'm going to hit my wall. Mixed reality, I feel safe. Like there's my wall,
especially for the low scoop.
Yeah,
otherwise you're smashing.
But I agree.
Dude, I get it.
So I got to ask the username. I'm probably going to pronounce it wrong. You go by Terranauts, right? How do you pronounce it?
Yes, that's right. You got it right.
What's the origins of that?
Honestly, for a while, as an RPG fan, I was just really into a game called Terranigma. It was like mid-90s Super Nintendo Entertainment System RPG. Just a ton of fun. And I just took the name Terra from that. I honestly can't remember where the noughts part came from, but I mean, I just like the sound of it.
No, I always love to ask the origins of usernames. Sometimes it's just random generator, but I like that it came from. So how long have you been going by that one online?
I genuinely can't remember at this point.
It's like you and Stratus, right?
Yeah.
Where did Stratus come from?
Honestly,
Counter-Strike days, right? But I don't know the origin of it.
Yeah, there really wasn't. And I was thinking more like stratosphere type shit.
So early 2000s, you know?
What blew it for me is when Trish Stratus from WWE blew up, and then it's like the name she kind of owned that name, so it was awkward for a lot of years having that name. It really was, dude.
It was originally Stratus 2K1.
2K1,
because I think you made it in 2001, right?
Possible.
Stratus 2K1.
I can't remember what it was before that.
That's the most like turn of the century username.
Oh, dude, it was so generic. So I just used it for all my games, and then Counter-Strike, I always used it, and then in Microsoft, I've used. So it's never really changed.
I'd like to think that someday there's going to be someone you played Counter-Strike with who goes, "It's freaking Stratus."
I still see some people that I used to play with 20 years ago.
Hop online in Steam and such.
They're still on Steam. Yeah, I'm amazed. They're still awesome.
That's awesome. So, what are your favorite VR RPGs? Since you mentioned it's your favorite genre.
There aren't too many of them, I would say. But I mean, Asgard's Wrath 2. How could it not be up there?
Did you play the first one?
I did not. No, it was one of those that just sort of went past me at the time. I have got it. I've got it. I think I got it for free with I think I gave it away at one point, but I just haven't had the time for it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to go back in to 1 because 2 was so good. So I got to see how 1 looked on PC VR as well.
Sure.
But I agree, it's a genre that's still slacking. If you consider Saints and Sinners RPG, that's definitely a top one. Up there as well too.
definitely games with like RPG elements, but I wouldn't necessarily call them RPGs as such. But progression stuff.
Closest to.
Yeah.
There's yet to be that full, Bethesda level, set the standard for RPG in VR, at least on standalone. So, of course, we've had Skyrim VR ports and Fallout ports, but an actual.
Say, where is Skyrim on Quest? Where is that?
Do you think that the Quest 3 could handle a port of that at this point?
I reckon so. Yeah. I mean, it was a PS3 game originally, so.
I've always wanted to see Oblivion or Morrowind too ported over. I'm like, oh, if we can't do Skyrim, let's get Oblivion. Those are even older graphics. Let's go. So, great stuff today, Henry. Before we let Henry go, because for the listeners, they know we record on Sundays. Even better than that, we're stealing Henry, with a time zone that's not in his favor. So we're scooping him in late at night.
Definitely not.
Henry's a great member of our Discord. We engage with him quite a bit, but anything else you want to ask with him?
I would close out any question. I will say I got to play with Henry when we played Mannequin.
Yes, that was a lot of fun.
Dude, honest to God, I think we made a great team once we really fit, because we went in there blind. Never played around. Got 10 minutes of instruction. Like, it's real simple to learn. But man, I could feel our flow coming towards the end of the round. Henry's a great.
Yeah, we got to steal him for Dungeons of Eternity. Maybe we'll actually be able to.
%.
We'll go to that. So in for that,
dude. We'll do that hard dungeon we have saved, and then we'll see if we can finally finish it, because it is brutal. But no, my question or last question would just be, what general advice would you give someone that wants to get into the journalism side of VR gaming?
What advice would I give? Oh, that is a tough.
You're talking to the young impressionable mind.
Yeah, maybe some 17-year-old somewhere that's not the best with feedback.
Maybe someone going through a change of life or something goes, you know what, I want to do what I love. But what would be your best advice for them?
I'd say the best advice would be, initially at least, this is more general advice rather than VR journalism specifically. Build up your portfolio. Even if you're starting off small, like you've got writing samples you can send off to editors, like gradually keep pitching up the chain as such. Make a name for yourself that way. Because at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you don't need like a degree or anything like that. You just need to be able to prove that you can write well. That's worth more than anything in this space. Show people that you can get to the heart of the matter. You're not just describing something. You are saying, is this good? Does this work?
I think you're a good example of that. You didn't go to school for journalism, but you just started doing it.
And that's what the editors are specifically looking for, correct?
Yeah, we're looking for analysis. We're looking for, we want your opinion. We don't want just a rundown of the features. What makes a game fun?
Makes sense. That's good advice too.
It's the reason I had to ask it, for besides the obvious, is like 99.9% of the answers to asking a developer the same question, someone in marketing the same question, is you just need to start. And I just love knowing that even this side of the industry, on the media end, it's the same thing. Look, you just got to start building your portfolio, start your writing, take your criticism like to heart. Don't take it personal, but take it to heart. No, I think Henry's a great example of, and just another great story and a cool human being.
Yeah, it's been cool to see you. I don't know if the word blow up is the right word. I don't want to.
I would, because you can't everywhere click on anything without going.
It's Henry Stockdale.
Do you feel when you read an article and you see like Henry Stockdale or
Nick Sutrich?
Those are does it make you feel good though? Yeah.
Wow, man, they're doing good.
The people behind it are, like I said, legit good human beings.
I think your week in review, the In Case You Missed It series, and then I love your upcoming games coming out, and then the past games released articles.
Dominate VR news.
Yeah, those 3 articles are must reads for any person trying to stay in the news cycle, in my opinion.
And they're not too long either.
No,
that's the other beauty. It's like whoever made the decision on what the pace of the article should be. It's done well.
No, you're doing great work over there. I hope we keep you in the VR industry because it's doing good work for developers, for everyone, really. So great stuff, Henry. Is there anything you wanted to say before we wrap it up?
Nothing I could think of, but I just want to say thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure, and that's very kind of you to say so.
Honestly,
you guys are great.
It was an honor to have you on. We were excited for this one for a while. We want to start talking with more media people a bit, maybe do some roundtables and stuff like that. So
sure,
you're a good person in the industry, and I'm excited to see where the next year brings us, you, and I guess the industry as a whole. So great stuff today.
Thank you. I'm excited to see where you guys go as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And then for the listeners, if you enjoy the podcast, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, check out the Patreon, the Discord, where you can find Mr. Henry there as well.
You can bug him firsthand.
Yeah. Ask him all the questions that we didn't ask today. We go, oh man, how did you not ask the journalist that? Go ask him yourself. So other than that, we'll check you out next week. Ciao, ciao.